that next menu item isn't going to change your fate. Distribution changes your fate. Distribution means that you have better top line and you don't need very expensive shareholder capital at that point.
Join us as Anthony Zoller and Rudy Suggetti interview Kep Sweeney, the CEO of PDQ. Hear how he led through the challenges of COVID, revolutionized their digital strategy, and shares the future of the restaurant industry.
Welcome to the Prosper Brief. This episode, we're joined with Kep Sweeney. We're going to get into your background here, and I've got a co-host with Rudy Suggetti from Takoya and Prosper. He's a board member of Prosper. So, Kep, thanks for joining us on the episode today. Could you give us a little background on who you are, what you're currently doing, and how you got into it?
I am the CEO of PDQ, and I got into it through a board member who asked me to come in and look at the company when they were struggling. And I was working at a restructuring firm. So I came in and I was engaged for probably 12 days. Things were going okay. And then Disney shut down for COVID and everything changed. Okay. So we started a different type of engagement.
Okay.
And you were with CR3 right before, correct?
Yeah. And that's how I met.
We did some work
member.
with them.
Yeah.
Great company.
Yeah,
yeah,
really good guys.
Yeah.
Smart guys. Yeah, you probably worked with a guy named Sugi.
Yes.
Who is
fantastic.
Oh my gosh, is he smart? He made me look like a hero. The things that he can do.
He's very, very talented. We love to work with him. Yeah.
I felt like he was the writer and I was the actor, and I just read the lines when I would be in front of the client.
Right.
Just say this, Kep.
Right.
And you'll sound really smart. So.
Right.
Really cool. So just to back up to, how did you get into the industry, or like have you been?
I started.
A common theme here too is a lot of the CEOs have started in a restaurant when they're a teenager too. So
I did. I started in the kitchen, and throughout college, I had a catering company, and we did some rather big parties, like for up to 2,000 people. Rented a kitchen. And then
while you're in college, huh?
While I was in college, then I moved to California. I had a fascination with Jeremiah Tower, and he had Stars Restaurant in San Francisco, and him and Wolfgang were the top two, like American chefs, and Wolfgang had Spagos. So I worked at Stars, and then I was hired in DC to work for Bob Kincaid, and I worked for Bob for a number of years, and there was Chef de Cuisine. I had gotten an award from Julia Child, and I went to the Cordon Bleu in London. And I spent a lot of years in the kitchen, and then I left and I went to MBA school.
Okay.
That's awesome.
So after MBA school, I went to Solomon Brothers on Wall Street, and I covered the restaurant industry. And then I started restructuring.
Yes. Right.
Yeah.
And then I believe you joined PDQ in 2020 as president of the company, right? And then you transitioned into CEO in 2023. Is that the timing is correct?
Right. I partnered with Nick Reeder, who was the CEO at the time.
Right.
And he did a fabulous job holding all of the stress that comes from a company that has underperformed financially, and then was going through COVID at the same time.
Right.
So he was he's a hero, what he was able to do, and he and I worked together, and we partnered and visited restaurants through COVID, and we listened and talked to people. And
can I ask you, so President 2020, 2023 become the CEO.
Right.
Can you talk about that transition? There are some challenges from being a president to a CEO. How was that?
In this instance, there was probably none, because we were kind of both doing a lot of different things, and the same team was in place. And so I was president on Monday, and I had a certain number of meetings, and on Tuesday it was the same day.
Great.
So it was great. We have a wonderful board, and one of my claims to fame is sharing a wall with Bob Basham. So it's great, and he's just next door.
Fantastic.
Cool. So wanted to get your insights. Where do you think the restaurant industry is currently? And let's start with that. There's a lot of headwinds, it feels like, facing the industry. Are you sensing that?
Yeah.
Where do you think we are?
I think there's a lot of headwinds, and I think that we're in a, it reminds me of a mini '08 where there's going to be a lot of consolidation, that people can't afford their own accounting departments. And the fact is that a lot of the G&A, all the overhead that we spend, we should be sharing with other groups. We get no benefit having those people solely for us. We spend that money where we could be using it on marketing and other things that might enhance top line and cash flow.
So you think that consolidation is going to be a trend here for the near future?
I think for longer than the near future. And I think one of the things is that because money was so easy in 17, 18, and 19, that when you peel back the curtain, most of these restaurant companies are really levered up. So the only way to not be a zombie company and just kind of get through the month with no investment in the future or barely covering repairs and maintenance is to consolidate. So there's going to be a lot of workouts coming up.
Yeah. And I guess also we're seeing the guests in general, there's a little bit of pullback, right? And there is a little fatigue for my pricing. Everybody's looking for value, discount. So there is a lot of that going on in the business too. What is quite challenge for not only for the guests, but for the restaurants. What's the right thing to do? We go the discounting route, it's the marketing route. How you see that happening and impacting the guest traffic?
I think that, it's a great question, and it's on everybody's mind. Mm-hmm. And I think that a lot of restaurants, they try to focus too much on the menu, and they try to menu their way out of something. Right. So, for instance, you might have a hamburger restaurant, and by adding chicken, that's going to be it. And really what you need to do is study consumer products, and you're looking for distribution. You're not looking for that next menu item isn't going to change your fate. Distribution changes your fate. Distribution means that you have better top line, and you don't need very expensive shareholder capital at that point. Right. So I think that that focusing on distribution, whether it's DoorDash and UberEats, which are fabulous types of distribution, but along the lines of consolidation, there's a lot of companies. If you remember back in the early 2000s, that people were trying to compete and build their own delivery, and they wanted to do that. Where UberEats and DoorDash provide revenue, they provide cash flow, and they provide advertising with zero customer acquisition cost. You're not paying ahead of time. You're only paying when someone gets it,
right? And
you still make money.
Right.
You can't do that with a billboard.
But let me ask you this. Part of that challenge also is they own your customer data, right? And that's, I agree with you. We love to see that part of the business. By the way, it's, I thought, well, after COVID, it will go back to somehow normal, but it didn't go back to normal. That's here to stay.
Right.
But at the same time, I feel all that guest data. Now they have my guests, and they can take it from one restaurant to another restaurant. So in a way, they own your guests because they have that access to your guests, right?
They do. They have that digital fingerprint
Correct.
Of your guest. What they can't stop is me trying to migrate the guest. We still would use DoorDash and UberEats, but they can, as long as they order through us, and in our instance through Olo, that we can own the guest. And then there's some great software we use, and I'm meeting with the CEO of Ovation coming up, that gives us a very intimate relationship.
Fantastic.
You have a drive-through guest, and I've seen one of our general managers setting up a phone call with somebody who was unhappy because of accuracy.
Yeah.
He's actually going to be a guest on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a very sharp guy.
Yeah.
I think he's got a tiger by the tail.
Yeah,
he does.
I like your perspective, though, that this is an opportunity. I've heard a lot of operators complain about the third party and the costs associated with that. But
think about distributing software. It's always the CAC. What is your customer acquisition cost? Here, there's none. I mean, you could say, well, you're paying 25% or 20%, 18%, whatever your deal is, but it's not. It's you're still making money. You have a little less profit in that channel.
Mm-hmm.
But you're getting new guests, and if you're able to use that correctly, you're getting an omni-channel guest, which is your most lucrative guest. So for us, I want you to come to be sitting on the couch and order PDQ. Then I want you to go through the drive-thru. Then I want you to do your own pickup. Then I want you to eat inside the restaurant. It's our job to keep you.
Right.
So I think that people look at that type of distribution, and I still hear that, like, we got rid of it because it's too expensive. Well, how's your traffic?
Yeah.
Oh, it's down.
Right.
How's your sales? Down. Our sales, and they're a big part of it, our sales are up plus 6%, and in 2024, we've had more corporate EBITDA than every other year we've been in existence combined. So and a lot of that is understanding how to use digital. We spend less using UberEats and DoorDash. We have a really good loyalty program, which is difficult to understand, particularly in the beginning, and you have to have some very smart people running it. And then you have the straight social media marketing.
Nice.
Right.
So,
Nice. I like that perspective.
yeah.
To be open about it, the third party, and I mean that's where the industry's going. You need to take advantage of it, and it's adapting still. I think that's not what our current model is not going to be the final model. It's going to keep adapting here too.
Right. And I was one of the ones early on saying, who's going to want to order? It's not going to be as good, and it's going to be a lot more expensive. Well, we just got used to that.
Right.
And it should be more expensive.
Right.
It's expensive, the drivers, and
Right.
that they have
Right.
to pay that, they have to pay their insurance, they have depreciation on their cars. There's a lot of expense. Bringing over a sack of $12 food to my house should
Right.
be at a premium.
Right.
If I want to talk a little bit about the operation. So PDQ stands for People Dedicated to Quality.
Right.
I love that.
Yeah.
How you ensure you maintain that philosophy at the restaurant level, right? I mean, I love your name, but then how you transfer that and ensuring that execution at the restaurant level, how you create that culture in your business?
Well, it starts with, I'm a fan of founders, and I like working with founders, and I think that there's a certain ethos that when the founder's involved, there's a lot of drawbacks that people have found with founders and kind of sticking too long to the wrong strategy.
Right.
But in general, if you're able to work with a founder and you're able to get to the right place, and even if there's arguing, and certainly Nick and I have argued,
Right.
but he's the driver of culture. Now, I think that we have a corporate staff that does a great job and understands the culture, people dedicated to quality, to training. All of those are kind of givens, but the one thing that we've done that I think is contributed significantly to the same-store sales growth is we've put together a recruiting firm in-house. So we've gone and we've changed out 32% just in the last 12 months of our operating directors. And maybe they weren't, not all of them, there are a lot of reasons, but maybe some of those people weren't dedicated to quality and hospitality. So by going out and recruiting, we're actually able to see people in their restaurants. We see what their parking lot looks like. We see their drive-through times. We see how their staff is. Are they happy? And we're able to bring them over to PDQ. And we've done a very nice job. We've got some big names, some big name companies where they're public companies, some of them, then they've been through that training. And the easiest way to have a good store is having a great general manager. And there's very often a disconnect, I think, in most of these restaurants where they spend too much money at the corporate overhead level, where they should be plowing that money into the general manager. I'll say one other line on that. I went to a director of operations that we had, and I said, if you had every manager like Bob,
Right.
for instance, what would you do in a day? And he thought, and he thought, and he thought. And he said, I don't know what I'd do. I wouldn't have anything to do. I wouldn't have a job. Let's get you fired, right? Let's find something else for you to do.
Right.
And then he goes to COO because we started rising tide floats all boats.
Right.
So
Now, it's I haven't heard this before. It's unique, but you're saying outsource some of the marketing, some of this general overhead, but then bring into the in-house the recruiting, which first time I've heard it. And I think very few restaurants probably have an in-house recruiting, have brought that in. So pretty unique. I like that perspective.
And we're using LinkedIn and
Right.
a lot of sources for that, but we're able to, what we want to find is a guy that, for instance, works at Raising Cane's and maybe has expressed an interest somehow. And that's just a compliment because I think Raising Cane's does a great job. And then go out and see how he's doing. We can see it,
Right.
right?
Yeah, that's
Is
great.
people are smiling or they're not.
Yeah, that's great. So how many units are you guys at right now?
We have 53 conventional units and 5 or so non-conventional airports.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, non-traditional.
Any expansion plans right now, and what's your outlook?
Right now, we don't. What we've done is that we've tried to spend most all of our energy on trying to maximize value in the units, raise AUVs. If you gave me a choice right now of opening a couple more stores or putting in digital boards, which we have in 2 stores now, I'm going to do digital boards. So there's a bunch of things like that that will add a lot more cash flow and allow us a lot more flexibility.
Great. For the outlook, too, just to start wrapping it out up here, and what do you see the trends in the industry going economically? Do you see this headwind that we have right now? Do you see that lightening up here in the near future?
I don't. The brands that are tweener brands, I think, are the ones that are going to struggle the most. I think that you have to have a very clear declaration of who you are. So let's say that you're in the QSR space. In QSR, you have 2 problems you solve: poverty of income and poverty of time. So anything beyond that, you're not meeting your core guest needs. If you have speed, accuracy, and quality, and the problem with quality is that what you think quality and I think quality, it's all different, right? We all like different things, and there are some places that are really busy that maybe I don't want to eat at.
Right.
So I think that working on speed and accuracy in QSR. Now move up stream and you're in the next sector at fast casual. Well, they better have premium products, casual dining quality, very fast, right? So their people have we're 16 to 24-year-old in QSR. That's the core guest. That's who does the most turns in a quarter. The next is just moving up and moving up and moving up to casual dining. So in casual dining, you have to be able to provide an entertaining experience for people.
Kep, if I was going to ask you, what has been the most rewarding part of your career in the industry, what would you say? What do you love about, the industry in your career?
The most rewarding part has been, and I'm going to talk I have a 4-minute talk later today on this, but it was during COVID, and I was walking into the building, and I was still a consultant at the time. And I think I had a hammer and everything looked like a nail, and I was going to have a number of hard talks. I was talking to a friend, Ken Wiles, who's been a 50-year friend. He's a professor in the MBA school at University of Texas, Austin. And we're chatting about some of the meetings that I'm going to have that day. It was April 15th. And then he said, are you okay if I suggest an alternative? And I said, yeah, okay. And he paused and he said, why don't you bring the light? And then he expanded and he said, everybody's having a real tough time. Nobody knows what's going on here. Why don't you not worry about productivity and efficiency and make everybody's day better? So I grabbed coffee, didn't go to my office. I went to Nick Reeder's office. I started talking to him about his family. And then I went to Bob Basham's office, our chairman, same thing. So I ended up going to everybody's office, and my presence from restructuring was another thing that people were scared about.
Right.
And so we talked about that, and I listened, and Nick said, let's divide up the stores and go to the stores, and we met their families and met the people that worked there, and we listened and we validated, we talked. And, the concept of bringing the light has changed everything that I do, where, I think that I'm an advocate now, advocate for the guests, the employees, and the shareholders.
Right.
And I spend more time asking, what can I get you? Do you need anything else? And a lot less time actually working.
For me, COVID was just an amazing, incredible experience. Going to the restaurant, talking to the employees. By the way, they were coming to work, where the majority of the people were staying home. Mm-hmm. We didn't know what was going to happen. I remember some of our employees, they lost family members, and they were showing up the next day. I mean, and we have to thank all of them, because we're here today because those individuals went back to work. Yeah. Changing the subject a little bit, I know you get invited to attend a lot of conferences, or you have the opportunity. Mm-hmm. Why Prosper? Why are you here?
I don't attend a lot of conferences.
Right.
I only do really 2 conferences, and Prosper is one of them. And I think that Prosper provides a much more intimate relationship, and I get deeper relationships with Prosper than I would at other conferences that seem a little more like speed dating to me. So also, I don't know where it ranks, but last year's Prosper was one of the great vacations my wife and I have been on. So I'm here right now, she's up in the room, and we had a great time last year. We had a great time last night. And
even with the hurricane and all that, you still have a good time last year, huh?
Oh, we had a great time. Well, I had to rush back, I think on Tuesday night, where I was going to leave Wednesday, because I knew that I'd left everything in the yard, all our furniture on the porch and things like that. So I had to run home and put it away.
Well, we really appreciate your time. Taking some time out of the conference, come sit down with us, share your thoughts. Really insightful.
This is great.
Thank you.
I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
I wish you the best rest of the conference.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Thank you so much. We
Okay.
appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this conversation with Kep Sweeney. If you love what you heard, don't forget to like, subscribe, and continue with us on this journey as we bring you incredible stories and expert advice from the leaders who are shaping the future of the restaurant and hospitality industry. We'll see you next time here on the Prosper Brief.